logging in games, we lit the squadron. Ballin', dodging, these moves they hit, we got them. Falling, groveling, we lit in any room, server or camp. Know when they see us, we stamp. We never lead till we amp, lead till we champs. Once we logging in games, we lit the squadron. Ballin', dodging, these moves they hit, we got them. Falling, groveling, so we lit in any room, server or camp. Know when they see us, we stamp. We never lead till we amp, lead till we champs. Beat them advance. We do we think for them when we in it, we kill it and leaving no chance to hell reclaim. That's not how we move in the wheel of games. Ultimate gamers and still the change, shaking the industry. Plenty G's winning our team, we some killing bees, killing these news while they still we replenish. We load the artillery, hold the hostility, boosting these trophies. We win, we in it online on the grind, opposition and misery. Leaking they dwell, call us the winners cause we never fail. This is the team that's making a wave on the streams, growing and hanging below. Ultimate endgamers league 1,000,000 degrees, and this is where gamers go pro.
That's right, it's time for the Sunday edition of the Ultimate Endgamers League. Season number 9, the race for $1 million continues today. And I've got one question for you, and one question only. Say it with me. Are you ready? Because it's time to break forth the rhythm and the rhyme. It's time to get down like a clown like Charlie Brown and turn your frowns upside down. It is time to put the kids to bed and wake up the neighbors. And it is time for the UEL to shine. So what do you say? We get down to that UEL beatdown, baby.
Hey, logging in games, we lit the squadron. Ballin',
Here we go. DMV scores the goal!
There's so many games out this period that a lot of people never really experience, so they get stuck in their kind of view. But
Ultimate Endgame is a person that, as defined as a person that pushes past just beating the game and instead completes the game. As you guys know,
Did you miss it? All right. So they went ahead and did a timeout.
I got lockdown on my team, man. What do you want me to do, bro? I need help. Mike needed Scotty. Carolina Reapers go back to back on the strength of Shekel. Traded, journeyman, disrespect.
ourselves as like pros.
I'd probably say 10K.
Yo, boys, no rush. Ultimate Endgamers League, so tough. Go capture that trophy, you can't win enough. It's the UEL, 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 UEL. This is the Ultimate Endgamers League. VA Grand Rapids and out overseas. You don't got a clue, come and get up to speed.
Welcome. My name is Strix. I'm joined here by Nexus, one of the reigning xGODS standing at the top of your division. How you feeling for today?
I'm feeling amazing. I get to go into this game excited because it's my only game against my friends. I'm ready to show out a little bit.
So you mentioned, you playing against your friends, some of your teammates. You worried about any games or y'all taking everything? How you feel? Like, I'm going to let you have a platform, but are you what games do you want to see and what games are you winning?
Okay, I want to say I'm winning all of them, but that's a bit of overconfidence. No, ultimately after playing with them, I mean, they're the ones who taught me a lot of the games in this league, so I'm excited to go against them. I was really hoping Pip would be here today, because Street Fighter would have been fun. I would have loved to go against him in Tekken, all those fighters. He helped me learn those. I think the game I'm looking most forward to today, though, is definitely college football.
College football? You've been practicing college football?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Actually,
every other time I've talked to you, you were like, "Yeah, I've never touched this game before in my life." So beyond that, how has it been now transitioning on this LAX God? You do have some of your former teammates, but still new teammates along the way. How are you feeling about the entire process? Because they're looking great.
Ultimately, it's not too much of a change just because, 6 of the 7 people, we've been friends for a long time. Havoc's a new person to us, even though he's the one who originally stayed on the xGODS. But no, he's just gelled with us so perfectly. He's amazing for the team. It's perfect. And Hasaj, he just linked perfectly with us too. But Sin, we were talking with before, he's been in our friend group forever, so all of us already play games together, so our chemistry has just been up top since start.
Okay, that's great to see, and I think everybody at home already knows that y'all have been gelling on all cylinders. So I'm going to ask you for the scoreline, and then I'll let you go. What is going to be the scoreline for today's game?
The scoreline?
Yeah.
I think people are thinking it's going to be a blowout, but I think it's actually going to be a bit closer. People are sleeping on this team a lot, I won't lie to you. I'll say 14-8.
14-8. You heard it here coming from Nexus. I'm going to let you go ahead, head back out to the floor, and we will jump back in here in just a second.
If he loses this now, I don't even know. All right, calm down, TOG. You just lost to him. Calm down. Stay focused, bro. Stay focused.
Going great on his trail.
Right now, hunting down that kill from the bandits.
Oh, and there.
And that one goes in there, taking this one away. It's 5-2. The first half is really starting to go their way.
Yes, it is. Definitely. Yes, this could be.
Hey, this is Rex, and I'm joined by the newest member of the Wolves, Exile.
Yeah, what's good, Rex?
Not good. So first game with the Wolves, first time really being able to show yourself this season. What games are you looking forward to play today?
Honestly, I was talking to Aspect as a joke. DBZ Fighters, knowing their little rivalry between the X-Rays and him and a few other of the xGODS. I would say FIFA. No, I just want to play shooters today. I'm excited for this matchup. Like it's just a great chance to show out.
So shooters today, but you are playing against your good friend Nexus on the other side, and he's known as one of the better sports players in the league. Are you looking forward today to taking any of those sports games?
I mean, if the wheel rolls, I'm in. I can go for sports and I win. That is fine. That's happy by me. I'm just taking this all one step at a time.
Now he did say NCAA, and going back to the previous seasons, Madden, another football game, has always been one of his weaker sports games. Are you going to let him win that today? Or are you going to
I don't know. Honestly, it depends on how the lineup rolls, how the wheel treats us today. There could be a chance where like an upset. We've seen upsets all week, so who knows what happens. I personally don't want to lose, but if it happens, it happens.
I mean, because you're one of the more active players in the chat and around the Discord in general, and I know you do watch a lot of the game. So what weaknesses are you looking forward to exploiting today on the
honestly,
xGODS?
This 6-man still a great team. I mean, all of them, they're missing out on a Saj, who honestly has been probably one of the best in the South. So them missing out on a Saj kind of tilts the wheel towards us and shooters, knowing just what he's good in, being top 500 in Overwatch and others. But it's a shame he couldn't make it. I still think this is going to be a great match. I think that weakness comes into the shooters, depending on how their lineups roll.
So Nexus predicted a score of 14-8 today. What is your score prediction for today?
Honestly, 14-8 is not a bad score, but I think I'm going to have to go with 11-12 Wolves win.
So we're going to get the first Wolves win today and the first xGODS loss today. 11-12. Is it going to overtime or y'all just going to...
I hope it doesn't go to overtime. If it happens, then you're not going to see from me after the game because I don't need the nerves for overtime, but all I'm saying is a close game today is a positive. I mean, we're all taking this one step at a time. We're missing out on Pip-Boy. Shout out to Pip-Boy, competed in ECT up in Connecticut. Couldn't make it, but it's giving the chance to others. And this being my first game at the Wolves is a great feeling.
All right, so we are expecting a good day from you today. Next, is you going to go undefeated?
If I go undefeated, then we're going to hear for it. But there are some times where if I make a mistake, that's fine.
All right, and so we'll throw it back over, and we'll see you on a little bit.
Did you know poor posture while gaming can cause serious neck and shoulder pain? Meet the Volare Pillow. This pillow is designed specifically for gamers. It gives your neck and shoulders the support they need, reduces strain, and helps you sit comfortably for hours. It's extra comfy and hey, you can even pick your style. It comes in rare, legendary, and epic levels. Match it with your setup by choosing from a variety of colors and designs. Don't wait for the next ache to hit. Level up your comfort with Volare. Use code UEL15 at checkout for 15% off your order. Grab yours today and feel the difference in your next gaming session.
If he loses this now, I don't even know. All right, calm down, TOG. You just lost to him. Calm down. Stay focused, bro. Stay focused.
Going great on his trail. Right now, hunting down from the bandits. Oh, and there. And that one goes in there, taking this one away. It's 5-2. The first half is really starting to go their way.
Yes, it is. Definitely. Yes, this could be a runaway, like you said.
Welcome back to the final day of Week 7. My name is Strix, and I'm joined here with Rex for another exciting game of UEL.
So what are you looking forward to today? The players.
I'm looking forward to the shooters the most. I think we're going to actually have one, if not two, of the best teams this league has in terms of shooting, just raw skill out here today. Come out and play. But if you're at home and you've never seen the UEL, the reason why he specifically asked me that is we are an esports league, a gaming league focused around 33 games across 5 different genres. We don't just play one here. You got to be good at them all to be the best, and we'll see which one of these teams comes out.
All right, and we have a match today, a very interesting match with the xGODS and the Wolves, right?
Yes.
So for many seasons, the gold standard in the UEL was the Eclipse or whatever iteration of that team it was. So this season is the first time we really saw them break up. And we've had teams that have had success with those players, as the xGODS have, being 4-0. And we've had teams, unfortunately, like the Wolves, who have had the opposite effect. So, in your opinion, who do you think is the underrated key for the xGODS? Who is, outside of the tier 1 and 2, who are you looking at as like, they're not getting the shine, but they really are a key factor in their success?
This is really hard because I think that whole team has been performing across the board. But I think Nexus hit on it kind of in his interview, and that would be Havoc to your face. The only remaining former xGOD player that is slotted in with, honestly, a bunch of championship caliber players and not missed a step the entire season. This entire roster, depending on the genre of the day and the game, even their rookies are outperforming everyone else in the league. So I have to look at it and just say, I guess the one piece that really is the most out of place on this lineup would have been Havoc. And now he gets the opportunity to show his stuff. But here we're going to be transitioning on over to RPS to determine who has control of setup for our game.
All right, so let's go into it.
The teammates looking at each other. We'll see who takes it. Double paper. Nice call.
Nice read on the rock there.
Young Jack Harlow, he always has it. He's able to find it. Shout out to AJ Lil Blue taking the first win and getting set up for our game today.
And let's see if I wonder if they're just going to play out through all the games and not even decide to set things back. Wait, is this Tekken 8? Because I do remember that Finn was really excited to see Tekken. Tekken's probably one of the least forfeited games, least respun game. This is a game that really encapsulates the UEL culture in terms of...
I would have agreed with you. We're playing one round this season, and it's really fun because it makes it volatile, but you can see players being like, I want to play more Tekken. It is the most popular fighting game, I think, by far, though.
So we talked about the xGODS before the spin. On the Wolves haven't had the success that they wanted. Who do you think on that side, whether it be through their gameplay, them helping the team in coaching or other things, and the other intangible things, who do you think has the biggest impact for them potentially getting their first win today?
Who has to have that impact?
Who do you think has to have that impact? Outside of the tier 1 and 2, which we expect them to have that impact.
Looking down this line, I can think of two major names. First and foremost, there's one notable member not here for the side of the Wolves.
And who would that be?
Pip-Boy Deluxe. This is their tried and true, their carry fighter. Everybody looked at him coming into the season saying, like, he's going to be a problem. And him not being here means that I have to look at Gurren's the step up. He showed up against the bots and was able to take a few fighting games for them. And so if he's able to do the same thing here against the xGODS, who are a weaker fighting team, they don't have a defined fighting player, X-Ray Aspect being their best. I think that he's going to be able to maybe propel his team to some wins, because even in that close bots game, it came off of them fighting in that sports and fighting category and finding some success. Otherwise, I have to look at Lemani, their rookie, first time on the stage today. I got to see what he has in store. Maybe he is their secret to success here against an xGODS team that's kind of looked unstoppable. What about you?
So I would agree with you a lot on the xGODS side. I think Electric has been a very underrated piece. He's somebody that, unless you were here when the Clips Gorilla they first started, you wouldn't know him that well. But he is a very pivotal piece to a lot of what they do. He's that little engine that makes that car go.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And on the opposite side, if you asked me, I would say Exile.
Interesting.
I think Exile has a much bigger role in terms of outside of just the game playing, right? Like, we've seen good teams lose because of bad coaching, because of shooting themselves in the foot. And I think with him being here so much, with him understanding how the league works a lot, he understands how the league works a lot better than people who've been here longer than him. I think him being here is going to kind of be a little bit of a catalyst, because they have the talent. Talent is spread well across the league, but where we see teams kind of falter and struggle with the teams that haven't won a game yet, we've seen it based on coaching and based on just mental errors.
And they did go ahead and trade for him, so him coming in and maybe adding on to that coaching, like you're saying, could be
the key
just that
factor
last little step. And if the Wolves really want to make a playoff run, I think
They have
this
to
would
start
be
now.
the game to make the stage. If you can beat the undefeated xGODS,
So
we will see. So we're going to be getting into going up
Tekken.
against Gurns versus Sin.
So the two people we're really looking forward to today.
Yes, and I can tell you right now, the king on player 2 is Gurns. He showed out last week,
And
it
counter hit
looks
grab.
like he picked it up again. You're highlighting these grabs, and Sin finally says, it's my turn to play the game, but Gurns isn't going to let you.
And what's another interesting to point out with these character select is that these two, at least from what I've heard, what I've seen, are the two least characters people hate going up against that we see in the league. People hate King because people don't know how to break grab, but that's okay because King players typically don't know how to break grabs either. And then the other side, we had Dragunov, and people hate Dragunov. Dragunov just robs you blind.
There's a possible,
you would know a thing or two about that.
He doesn't rob you.
And now
But,
we have Victor versus, which is going to be AJ Lil Blue, that tier 1 versus Gurns.
So tell me about each one of these characters. We see Gurns here on the king, the guy in the leopard mask, right? He's hitting these knees, he's grabbing. But what does Victor do?
Victor, so for those that play Tekken 7, Victor feels like to a lot of people their replacement for Noctis. Obviously, right, they didn't have Noctis, but you see him going to heat here, start his combo up. Let's see if he's able to get him to the wall, get that splat. And he's keeping the pressure up. He's not allowing him to do anything, and he's not able to break the grab. And that is Gurns going through another person. And that's one of the things about, and we're probably going to see we're either going to see a Victor or Eddie here. I believe we're going to see Eddie. I think that's who Aspect has been playing, because Eddie has been robbing people blind.
At the end of the day in the UEL, it's not just how well you understand your character, the matchups. It's how well you understand your opponent sometimes. And on X-Ray Aspect specifically, and I have to clarify that today. It's going to be a little bit difficult. There are 4 X-Rays in the building today, 3 of them on the side of the Wolves, but X-Ray Aspect here, he was very excited to play Gurns, I'll say, today. And so, yes, we'll see Eddie versus King, and, we might maybe a little bit of trash talk, maybe a little bit of fun.
And now that we bringing up Eddie, actually, I'll wait till after this round is up, but Eddie has been one of those characters in in the fighting games, right? Like, you can't expect everybody on your team to completely understand every fighting game. But what people do in a lot of fighting games is they find that character that they can cheese out a win with, right? And that's been that character for Tekken. Now, X-Ray understands fighting games, which makes this all that much more scary to deal with. You see him getting that good block. And this is the first time that Gurns today in Tekken has really been pressured. And let's see what he's able to do with the grab. But he's able to do so much damage just off of simple interactions. Let's see if X-Ray is able to finish off what he started so strong. They're about at the same health, not much difference. So one interaction, is he able to block it? And he's able to get a full punish here, and this should be it. He should be able to get him to the wall and kill him.
And the immediate call out as the game. And you saw him for a second, they're like, He's like, wait, I know who I beat. Let me talk my stuff. Gurns finally dropping down. He did manage to take out a couple of the enemy players before X-Ray went ahead and sat down, and Aspect, took him out. Some good play by Aspect. It was closer than maybe even I expected. He scared me there for a second.
And then we have Harangue now, another character that people struggle to deal with, right? We have some Harangue players in the league, right? Like LJ Skater Girl. It's one of the many characters that TOG picks up. A whole lot of kicking going to be going on this round. A whole lot of don't bother looking at the upper half of these characters' frames.
You hit it on the head, because both of these characters, whereas Eddie sometimes will just straight up stand on his hands to start kicking, Harangue on the other side is just going to be throwing a flurry of legs. But we get our chance to see Exile for the first time in game.
At this point, unless you're going to grab, just go ahead and unbind the 1 and 2 button, because you're not going to be using them. All right? And let's see if he's able to do anything here. Nope. And you can tell, at least, he's actually throwing some punches out here. You can tell that X-Ray, I feel like, is respecting Exile a lot more than he respected Gurns. He was a little bit more cautious against Gurns, but you see him just go in there.
I think that comes down to just experience between the two players. Like, when anybody I've played, I will play them a little bit different than I will play anybody else. If I don't know what you're going to do, I'm going to just try to kill you outright. And I think that's what X-Ray Aspect specializes in compared to every other player in
It's
the
a
league.
skill. There's a skill in beating people worse than you, just because it's like you respect certain buttons, right? Because going to a Tekken player, you know, oh, I'm not gonna press on this. I'm minus 22, right? They don't know they're minus. They're gonna keep pressing buttons no matter what.
That's the skill here. X-Ray will say, until you beat this option, I'm going to kill you over and over and over again with it. And it looks like we're getting another button check, make sure everything's good. No, we just want to make sure your buttons are in the right place.
Speaking of the X-Ray, so we have X-Ray Aspect right now versus X-Ray Kenny.
And we will see which one's able to find a win here. Both players also still on these powerful kicking characters.
And you see X-Ray using a little bit of movement here. He's like, I'm not losing to X-Ray today. No, I can't, because then I'm just going to get flamed. And you just see him doing the same option over and over again. Got the grab and has him up in the wrist wall. He'll be able to kill him there.
And that is another win coming in the books for X-Ray Aspect. So all of the pressure Gurns got early on now has been evaporated. X-Ray Aspect specifically. Well, I'm going to start saying Aspect.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm going to be saying X-Ray 100%.
Aspect, yes.
Aspect is completely taking over this game. Luckily, you have Snappy sitting down. I want to see who Snappy's dragging off. So it looks like Snappy maybe have learned as well.
Maybe some wall running too, then some other things that put a little bit of pressure. Don't just let Eddie do what he wants to do.
Yeah, this character is really interesting because we didn't get to see it as much because of the pressure that Gurns was able to put out. But normally, this you're playing his game. You don't get to move around. You don't get to.
It's like going against Zhao Yu.
Exactly. You have to play kind of to his own tempo, and like let him be the person controlling the pace. Now, a good way to win is to never let him get started. But I think Snappy has a lot of time put in as a tier 1. As I say that, he immediately gets hit into heat, and it's
that's
taking
probably
half of
what
his
the
life.
1+2 break.
Yes.
And then let's see if he's able to. Is he going to get? No, he can't get a perfect here. But what's really interesting? So when we had Street Fighter 5 on the wheel at one point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody in Street who didn't know how to play the game was playing Ed, right? And it took a while for people to really lab that matchup. I'm surprised that this far into Eddie being in the league that we haven't seen anybody, at least in my opinion, who looks like they've really labbed the Eddie matchup, especially if they're pressing 3-3-3-3-3. You think that we'd have a little bit more.
Well, that's a whole conversation because players, and as we'll get into it a little bit while this button check is going on. Unfortunately,
we do have Kevin up.
Yes.
And Kevin is pretty good at Tekken, if I remember correctly, right?
Yes, he's put a lot more time in, and this Claudio is a problem. If you don't know how to deal with it, you mentioned labbing, specifically training and practicing against a different character's options, and Claudio is one of the biggest offenders of if you haven't put the time in to know how to deal with it.
He's going to rob you.
Exactly what's happening right here. Every time X-Ray Aspect is looking for his opportunity, Aspect is trying to find a chance just to play the game, and he isn't able to, finally blocking the low, continuing his chance to play, but he finally falls, and all that's left is Nexus and Electric to hopefully close out this game.
And it looks like it's going to be on Kevin to clean this out. Now, what I will say is, because Electric hasn't played in a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Tekken 7, Electric was getting pretty decent at, right? His character's not in the game anymore. He played Lucky Chloe. So I wonder if he took note from another former Chloe main and is playing Azucena. We'll see here in a second.
I feel like that's the easy transition of characters, just because the character. No, it looks like it's Eddie. I was gonna get to all thing. No, it just looks like Eddie. It looks like
no, it's Claudio. Oh right, yes, because
Claudio should
Kevin,
still be
yeah.
Kevin. Yes, Kevin's Claudio is potent. If you don't know how to deal with it, you're just going to get blown up. Just from the various options the character has. You don't know where you mentioned like being plus and being negative. You don't know. A lot of people just don't see Claudio enough to know when it's their turn to lead the dance, when it's their turn to dish out damage. And so you find yourself pressing at the wrong time and eating, as we saw Aspect do, half your health bar.
Yeah, you just see a lot of people trying to jab punish things. Because it's like, if you don't know if you press on it with a jab and you can't connect, then you know that it's, wow.
Speaking of perfect, I blinked. I'm sorry. I blinked. I legitimately blinked. And that round was over. I can see why, funnily enough, keeping Kevin at the end, I had a lot of questions. Normally, you would see probably Pip-Boy take up this role if he was here. But it looks like he's prepared his team, and his team has worked together. Again, none of these players are bad. They're all known to be good players. Both teams acknowledge the skill.
Oh wait, did they call button check? Did the button check? So here's an interesting thing. So button check, right? If the xGODS win, so the xGODS called a button check. And for those who don't know, if you press the button, like you hit the other person during the button check before they get a chance to call it, then
you lose
your life. And since that was the last person, and this is, I was about to say that they might be able to pull out Tekken without Pip-Boy being here, which Pip-Boy would have obviously helped. That's where you really feel the pain. But now we see a mental mistake. A mental mistake coming out from the
it's
Wolves.
more of, this is the hard part for me, is like, I think for experienced fighting game players, and it's not that I think Kevin, Kenny, any of them aren't experienced, but sometimes when you're playing well and you're on a roll, you kind of get this rhythm and you want to keep up that rhythm. And especially after that perfect, I think he sat down.
I was like, I got this.
Yeah, and just was ready to go. What you'll see 9 times out of 10 is a lot of the fighting game players, we will literally just sit back and be like, all right, take this second to breathe. Take this second to wait. Because if my hands are on the controller and I see round start, instinctually, I'm doing something. What I would recommend to players is instead of pressing a button,
press
backdash. Backdash, back up. Worst case scenario, you got to deal with a little bit of space. But again, unfortunate mistake, but it bodes well for the fighting games if they can make the rest of them look like that today.
So now we have Maelstrom, which you're a bit more knowledgeable on. So I'll let you take the floor on that.
It's interesting. It is a nautical boat battle royale, 3v3 where we jump into a public lobby, and it's the closest thing I can compare to is a kill rate. So you get points for damage, for kills, and for your placement overall in the battle royale. And so these players will have to work together, picking various ships with different abilities, different captains that further enhance that ability and play from there.
So one person you were mentioning earlier that you really talked about with the xGODS was Havoc to Your Face, right? And they anchored Havoc to Your Face for that game, right? For Tekken. And from if memory serves correctly, Havoc is one of the best players in the league at this game.
I think I would go out on a limb and say that Havoc, in terms of both playtime and knowledge of Maelstrom right now, is the best player in the league. Having spoken with him and played with him, he has an understanding of every single one of the ships, the captains, the mechanics of the game to a point where he is so intentional of what he's doing, where he can watch what you're trying and then immediately look to counter it. And on the flip side, we have to look now at the Wolves because now they send in Doomsday, their tier 2, going in with 2 fresh players, both on their first game of Season 9.
So Doomsday was somebody that had to go in, and the 2 was the tier 7 and 6. Knowing how good Havoc is, do you see a world where they're like, okay, we're not fully sure if we win this, we're going to try, but we're not going to put our tier 1 in? Because one thing you have to really think about with rotations, which we've explained earlier, correct? It's like a baseball rotation is, so if we look at Havoc, right? So yes, Havoc would have been able to go in on a reset regardless if he went in for Tekken or not. But because he went in and then it reset, he's still available for the next rotation. So say you put Snappy in for this game, right? It really starts to mess with the rotation. Now, it may not mess with it immediately, but at some point during the game, you're going to get caught up on rotation, and he's going to be out for a game that is really pivotal, right? Like, you want him in for Valorant, you want him in for Siege, you want him in for Halo, you want him in for certain games. So managing your rotation is extremely pivotal.
I think that that's going to be even more important because they're running 7 versus 6 today. Normally, the lineups would be even. There would be one person out. You can kind of almost match your opponent, especially if what they're going to do. But because they have that extra player, what you'll end up seeing across the board from almost everybody is now exactly what you said. Like, we need to hold Snappy, and I think this team realizes we need our tier 1 in the specialties to contend with such a strong xGODS team. We have to have Snappy win, like you mentioned, those shooters, Rainbow Six Siege, Valorant, Halo. If they roll and he's not available, it's not that you can't win. You're just in a really difficult spot. But while we get into this game, I want y'all to know about our official PC sponsor, SurfThing PCs.
If he loses this now, I don't even know.
If you
All right, calm down, TOG. You just lost to him. Calm down. Stay focused, bro. Stay focused.
Going great on his trail.
Right now, hunting down that kill from the bandits.
And there.
Ken, and that one goes in there, taking this one away. It's 5-2. The first half is really starting to go their way.
Yes, it is. Definitely is. This could be a runaway, like you said.
And we're back.
And we are back. We're getting a few technical options that we're handling. So it actually ends up being a timeout from the Wolves. It seems like they were not ready to go. So we were going to sit down here and we'll get into the game shortly while everything gets figured out. You mentioned this before. Part of the teams at the bottom of the standings, Wolves being one of them, it's a lot of the out-of-game stuff that has been the problem more so than anything else. Losing a timeout here doesn't maybe bode well. Maybe that's just, again, early game jitters.
Gotta get everybody used. They have somebody who doesn't, not gonna say doesn't understand UEL, but there's a difference between watching it on Twitch and then being here actively participating.
Yeah, Lemeni, he's interesting to bring in a rookie on this game, especially this late into the season. Maybe wanted to get him some reps, but I have to agree, he doesn't end up playing. And I do have to clarify for y'all one more time. That is actually a technical timeout. It was found to be a technical problem that has to be handled. So the Wolves will be getting their timeout.
So while
back.
we're in the actual timeout, let's actually explain the different resources, the timeouts and the forfeits. So each team starts each match with 5 timeouts. At halftime, they go down to 2 if they have anything more than that. So what a timeout does is it stops the game clock and it gives the team more time to set up a game. Now the forfeits are interesting. There's many different strategies. Some teams opt to not forfeit, but the object of the forfeit is if you don't feel comfortable with a game, whether it be lineup or talent wise, you can forfeit it, get the game over. Whether it's for mental reasons, where you're like, wow, like we're going up against the Reapers in Overwatch, right? Like the Reapers are going to get in our head. We don't want to deal with that. Let's just go ahead and forfeit it. Or whether it's for time, where it's like, okay, well, it's halftime. We want to get another game in, and there's no point in playing this game. Let's just go ahead and forfeit it.
I think that that's really interesting because I feel like teams are using forfeits less in general because the veteran players feel more confident in more games. Before it used to be, oh yeah, we're just gonna forfeit this game because we're the Reapers. It's season 6 and we're not playing League of Legends.
Yeah. Oh, we don't. The Reapers. I feel like the Reapers have also given up games.
Oh yeah.
Just because they feel like, well, we have something, but we don't want to see people see where we are. And some of these timeouts, like a lot of these, we've seen teams run completely out of timeouts in the first half. So what happens in that instance if you run out of timeouts and the game isn't set up because of you, whether it's your setup, or you didn't put yourself in a position to get into the game, we've seen that's a forfeit once the time comes out. So that's a very important thing to kind of note is that just because, say it's xGODS setup, right? Just because it's xGODS setup, if the time runs out, that doesn't mean it's the xGODS fault that the game didn't start. If the Wolves didn't get into the game, put themselves in a position to accept the invite, to get themselves in a position to get into the game.
You can't just let it be your opponent's setup and not do anything. There's still that punishment if you aren't actively trying to basically participate in the game. You have to do that, and I don't think the Wolves are trying to do that. The Wolves came in today and they all seemed pretty cheered. Like this should be a fun game. We don't think it's going to be easy, but it should be fun. So most times when you see friends in the league play against each other, it's kind of like, let's have some fun. Let's play some games, and we'll see who comes out better. The xGODS currently have the lead. Is there any game, you asked me, but is there any game you want to see?
If there's any game I want to see, I want to see Valorant.
Ooh,
I think Valorant would be fun. But NCAA is another game I kind of want to see. Is that Dragon Ball Fighters that we're about to see? Rainbow Six.
Rainbow Six Siege. And that call that you made, it was incredibly smart to go ahead and hold Snappy out, having him available for this.
And Doomsday is also really good at Siege. He was actually one of the better Karma play or Eclipse plays at Siege. So this ought to be a fun game to watch. All right, so
unfortunately, he won't be able to go in though, because remember they put him in off reset.
He had to go in because they held him out for Tekken.
That is true. So he is some very good resource management. That's the thing. Even being in the league for a few seasons, you sometimes get caught up. You almost have to double check. So we're here on the ships and different players playing different positions. Specifically here, we have Aspect on the dwarf boats. It looks like the xGODS have opted for 2 dwarf boats. These are 2 tanky boats. They're meant to be front lines. They're meant to deal damage. It looks like they have the torpedoes, though. And then on the flip side, they're able to bring in I have to guess that is Havoc. It's going to be on the human ship here. This is more of our sniper shooter ship. We see a lot of players playing where they're able to dish out a ton of damage with the various cannons, the large number of them on the side. And it looks like they've already found the wolves. I wonder if they're going to opt to go into a fight here. You see Havoc turning and opening fire as the opposing team, the wolves, try to get in.
So you mentioned dwarf ship, you mentioned human ship. For those that haven't played, what is the strength of these ships? What's the purpose of having different types of ships? Is it just a preference?
It comes down statistically. Every ship has its advantages and disadvantages. So the dwarf ships can't move as fast as the other ships from the other factions, but they can move forwards and backwards. They don't have sails. They tend to be a little bit tankier, a little bit beefier. But these other ships can beat them out of sheer maneuverability, as well as usually having more just raw firepower whenever they are prepared. And it looks like they're pushing back here, trying to bring them into this choke. And we see Exile on what looks like one of the orc ships. I don't like this. He's exposing the backside of his ship to him, where it is the weak point of a lot of the orc ships. Again, every ship does have its strengths and weaknesses, and players playing around them is going to be the most important. So a less balanced approach, I'd say, coming out of the xGODS, but they know what they want to do. This game plan seems to be about getting up in your face and not letting them get to Havoc, and trying to let him get as much damage as humanly possible at all times. Now we're on to Doomsday. Yes, and now we're on Doomsday. He's caught in the middle. He's on the same ship as Havoc, but notice his health bar, his shields, they're all gone. His ship is on fire. He's trying to get away, trying to get the space he normally would want to take some of these shots, but he might not have the time. Somebody claimed Lemani's bounty. Luckily, it wasn't one of the enemy players, so no points there, but the damage is there. We see the cries for help come out of Doomsday as he flees, hoping with 96 health left. I have to believe that he's going to die with this next
and looks
hit.
like Exile was sent to the depths.
And so that's all 3 of the players going down. That doesn't mean this game is over, depending on how damage went. But
Aspect claimed Doomsday's bounty.
That's at least 1 point then over to the side of the xGODS. And now they just need to check. You can always, again, fun fact, press tab, do a little bit of math. Make sure you're not driving into like a whirlpool so that you die. But at the end of the day, you should be able to calculate really quickly if you've won or lost this game, almost immediately from this point. Like, you don't need to necessarily keep playing unless you just want to. I hear GG's being called, but the game has not been called just yet, so we just kind of have to wait around. If they are not electing to basically eliminate themselves, we will be playing until the end of a battle royale game. So everybody else is falling, but a given team. Nice job coming out of the whirlpool, but ended up whiffing the shots.
Like an xGODS win.
Yeah, and it was called there.
Yeah.
So I think they realized that, hey, there's no way for you to actually be able to win this. We're going to go ahead and call the game. And, yeah, you're not going to be in a position to take a win. Now I have to see who they put in here, because we know that Snappy and Doomsday are going in, right?
I'm calling right now. I think it's going to be Sin. I think you put Sin in here. And what's going to
for the xGODS. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, for the xGODS. On the opposite side, so it's going to be interesting, because I think the Wolves' best lineup is their first 5. But it's hard to know because Lemani, we don't know. Lemani could be the best siege player in the world. We don't know that. That's the interesting and dangerous thing about dealing with rookies, is you don't know where their skills fully lie in. You learn so much, right? Like, you've drafted before. You've seen it where a player comes in and you're like, oh yeah, I play Dragon Ball Z Fighters and I play this. Okay, cool. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm great at Overwatch. Like, I'm probably the best Overwatch player in
Fun
the league.
fact, everybody in the league. He literally is describing my first conversation with X-Ray Gurns, my rookie season, down to the T. Like, these are the games I play, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm like amazing at this too. And you all of a sudden realize that in this league to be great. All of these top players, all these, again, people look at records and allow that to define a player, but a lot of the best teams can look and be like, oh no, you're really good in these areas. And to be good at UEL, you have to be good not at one genre, not even at two. We have some solid players that are two category players.
The top 3 players, right? And not to put them in any order, but the top 3 players that people would talk about, and you can flame me in the chat for saying it, because I know somebody's going to be mad because I didn't say their name, is going to be Hollywood, Cat, and Jury. Those are the 3 people that, generally speaking, if somebody talks about the best players in the league, those are the 3 names that are brought up.
I think that might change after this season. I think it's not that I think they've gotten worse. I think that off of legacy skill, people give most of them just a default place in that top 3. But with the way, even like, he's not here today, Hassaj is outperforming every other player in the league as a rookie. Across the board, I think we have to start having conversations of maybe saying this league has grown. And to your point, it looks like they're sending in everyone but X-Ray Kenny.
As somebody who's been in the coaching and GM position, if you're in this situation, right, where you're the Wolves, let's say X-Ray Kenny is better than Lamani, right? Do you put in X-Ray Kenny and it's like, okay, well, we just have to gamble with Lamani having to be the anchor? Do you put him in, or do you feel, if you feel comfortable enough to win that game, are you like, okay, well, let me leave Kenny out and put Lamani in, and put him in a position where he doesn't have to do too much, but we can guide him towards the win?
I think about it almost in the opposite way. Of a lot of players and teams look to protect rookies, protect new players. The best way to do that, in my opinion, in UEL, is if a game that if they know how to play, if they put some time into, and you can send them in for it, do it. If Lamani's a shooter, put him in for a shooter. Don't let him have to be out sitting here waiting, possibly ending up playing Lumina Rush. Not that Lumina Rush is a bad game, but if you only played shooters and sports games, okay, yeah, here's this platforming, speed running type game that you haven't necessarily touched a whole lot of. Now, I know he has been streaming a bunch. He's been around the Discord. He's been definitely making his presence known. But you're still a rookie, and 33 games ultimately is a lot to get over the wall. We'll find out what map and what everything is going on. I have to believe we're going to be playing bomb, right? Yeah. The different players and the different teams, and we do have a timeout.
So we're talking about how the Eclipse, there's a few Eclipse members and granted there's a lot of things that go into it. I want to say that we have at least 3 of the best players in Siege from those teams, with it being Snappy, Doomsday, and Electric. Electric was really nasty at Siege from what I remember.
Electric has been killing it all season in Siege, constantly in a situation where his team is already good at shooters. He finds ways to stand out. Him, Sin, and Hassaj especially. But in Siege, if there's been a game that's been Electric's game this season, it's been Siege, for sure.
So while we're talking about underappreciated people, there's one special person I want to bring up today. There's one very special person who does so much for the league. Not many people who haven't been here for long know his, and that's Doc. Today is Doc's birthday, so if we can get a shout out to Doc in the chat, happy birthday, because he's always watching. He's in the background. You don't hear too much from him. He's very unappreciated person. Been supporting since day one. So if we can just get some happy birthdays for him going.
Yeah, we'd appreciate that. Go ahead, throw that in the chat. Shoot him some love over on social medias. Doc is part of the engine that makes this league run. And right now, these two teams are going to be running and looking at their tier 1s and 2s. So we're going to take a look at that matchup between these players. Starting off with the tier 1s. Oh, we got different. Oh, Snappy got the hair bopping. We, AJ still serious.
AJ's AJ.
He's got to be. He got an image to keep up. Yes, absolutely. 1-0 versus 0-1. The former teammates right now, aren't looking the best. It came down to that fighter, and they will finally get to see if we have an even game or maybe AJ starts.
It is still an early game, so we'll see things average out, right? Things tend to average towards the norm as we go through. But it sounds like we may be getting into this game quickly. Who do you have winning?
I like interesting games. I'm gonna say the Wolves. I think the Wolves might have, like, quietly have one of the best shooting rosters in the league.
They might not.
It's gonna be a sports game, regardless.
NCAA is Nexus available. He wanted to play it. He wanted to
He
go
should
in
be
for it.
Nexus. They should actually both be available.
Oh, then it should be a fun game. It should be an interesting and fun game to see. So we're going to be jumping over onto Clubhouse. Not a map we always see, but I think
We see Oregon a lot. Oregon
Yes.
seems to be the default. So I've got a question for you with how Siege is played. So Siege is played in a different way in UEL than it's played outside of UEL.
Mhm.
So do you think, for you and all the other players who play Siege a little bit, do you think, based on the UEL rules, that it's better to go for traditional things, like traditional setups and defenses, or do you think it's the best to go for like a surprise type of factor, like hey, I'm not going to take my time, I'm just going to rush in?
I think that for the most part, against most teams, playing traditionally is going to be a good thing. I highlight playing traditionally because of the fact that most teams in the league seem to, kind of like we mentioned with Tekken being the league's fighter, the shooter of the league is, right now, from what I've seen, it's going to either be Siege or be Overwatch. One of those two games. And so, like, a lot of people kind of will, like, even with the RPS option, the setup option of it being the choice between map, mode, and side, most players are going to be like, look, I don't need to worry about mode. Everyone's going to pick bomb. Like, we're not playing secure the area or hostage. So let's not worry about that factor. Let's worry about creating a good comp, something that makes sense, something that we want to play. Notably, this season, teams aren't able to avoid.
He's trying to peek into that. Now, it's interesting you say that is Overwatch or Siege may be the sports game, the de facto sports game, because up until the last few seasons, it's been Overwatch, right?
Yeah.
But you're starting to see people get more familiar with Siege, and you're starting to see higher level gameplay. Maybe not what people exactly want, but we have them peeking in there.
And he's just looking to see if anybody is hanging around here that maybe he can get a shot off on. And it looks like they have managed to go ahead and open up this wall with the thermite, which is going to give them quick access to the bomb site. And now we once again see him moving back. It's interesting to me that he is playing so far away. Yes, he's playing this kind of Overwatch role on this sniper character, Kali. Any character that does peek out might really quickly lose their head if they're not careful.
It's very unforgiving.
Yes, so we have to see what everyone else is going to be able to do and how they're going to be able to play. But now here we see Kevin kind of lurking around, looking just in case, keeping track of where the different players might be. Very comfortable in the game in general. Everyone is trying to just find. I think the first kill is going to set the pace for this entire
And no,
round.
we don't see, at least from what I've watched, is we don't see a lot of drone usage after round start, which you think would, like, because information is information, right? Like, the more you know, the more information you can gather. You may not be the best shot, but with how quickly this game can go, how quickly kills can go.
Behind the motorcycles, Aiden, first floor.
And it looks like one of the players from the side. It was actually two players now from xGODS have gone down. One of them was Electric, and we hear Electric calling out like, "Oh no, he's here. He's not where I thought he was." And now we see AJ Little Blue, the tier 1, pushing in. He's trying to find an opportunity to get his team back into this round. Defense has been the stronger side, kind of letting the opponents push into you. Just to seem to reward people this season.
And AJ is a very underrated person. I don't think he got the respect he deserved when he was on the Clips, but he's certainly getting it this season.
Right over there.
I think it's really hard for all of those players. When you have a ton of really good players, it's hard to stand out. That's another player going down, and finally
AJ takes the first kill for the team.
Yes, he found Gurren's on the rotate, but he has to find out these other players and find out where they are. He has to get to this bomb. He's going to have to take his time to break this wall. But all these little hits are going to require him. Now they both have to work together, but the door's opened and they jump in and they immediately get dropped down. That's one round going the way of the Wolves. Good job here. You see Snappy wrapping back around. He got the first and final kills of that.
And you can see why Snappy wanted Doomsday on the team. So we are going to see now the xGODS on defense, correct?
Yes. So we will go ahead and swap up here. I'm interested to see how the xGODS are actually going to set up this game, set up this defense, because it ends up really deciding what the opponents are able to do. You saw that the Wolves elected to put up these shot walls, try to keep them out, even once things
Control
opened
space.
up. Yes, they kind of gave up certain areas to lure them forward, but never fully committed to being on bomb sites. I think we see some teams overload bomb sites specifically, but if you have the coordination like the Wolves do, I think that ends up working out pretty heavily. Now we have to see if the Wolves are able to do the same on offense as they were able to do on defense.
You see them droning out, trying to find that bomb. As much information as you can get before it starts, the better. You get to know, maybe get some information on how they're set up, where the bomb is located. So you can, instead of spending time finding out where it is and then getting shot because you don't know that there's somebody hiding back there, you can spend that time slow approaching it, right? You're not rushing. And the more you have to rush in this on attack, the quicker it is or the easier it is for you to just get your, like you said earlier, get your head taken off.
And this is what is important about that. So immediately looking around for these cameras, he doesn't want the defenders to know possibly where they're coming from. But more importantly here, you are able to see that. Now, okay, I'm taking in the setup here. It looks like they've elected to go basement, but you don't even need to sometimes find the bomb. If you know these maps, and a map like Clubhouse people do, you're able to just kind of, through process of elimination, quickly find where people might be. And now it looks like possibly Ern's looking to go in here, making a little bit of noise, and as they work their way through the building, you don't want to push in too quickly. You want to kind of clear every floor and look for an opportunity to maybe find a player, find something. And exactly what you mentioned before, we don't see a lot of players do it, but throwing out a drone here to get a little bit more information, ensure that this area around where they want to be or over the bomb site is clear so they're able to push in here.
That there's no roamers there to take them out. Because the last thing you want to do is you want to be so focused on the bomb site that somebody sneaks up behind you that you're not expecting from a lower floor or higher floor.
And so we see players piercing the building from different angles. And now just some patience. This shows me that Nexus has played the game. He's willing to sit here and just hold this angle for any movement. That is what he's looking for here as the tier 2. He wants to get an early pick like we saw Snappy do on the last round. He's going to continue to hold this angle. And now his team is likely doing the same. What I want to see out of the Wolves is I want them to open up the site, not by just moving in, but by blowing up floors, walls, ceiling, anything and everything. We kind of hear it going right now. And this is why forcing Nexus to move, realizing that hatch that was above him, that protective point, is no longer there. And now he's not able to hold that angle, which allows the other team to start to move forward, to start to push up, to start to take space. And now the game can start to move in their controls. But Nexus isn't breaking down completely. We see the building still being opened up. And this lion scan is going to track anybody that moves. So everyone's forced to stand still, even if it's just for a second. Explosions. They're moving their way. And now we don't have a whole lot of time. A little bit of wild aim there. Wasn't able to find a shot, but maybe scared off the player. But with 30 seconds left, they don't have a whole lot of time to check every corner. AJ finding a kill on the Doomsday is going to be huge here. That might be all the round needed. Electric getting 2 as well. It's down to a 5v3.
25 seconds left to go.
There's still one in kitchen.
And able to knock that, kill that person. And is that flawless? Another, yep.
That's all 5. This is one of those things that looks like both teams have a solid understanding of defense, but neither team has specifically
a solid game plan on.
Yeah, the offensive side of this game is a lot harder because I think you need defense. You can learn a setup. This is something that for a game like this, the knowledge for Siege is learning how to set up the site to best defend it, and then you can be like, hey, Rex, I need you to stand here. I need you to watch this door.
Basic enough, I could do that.
Yeah, just hold this. If you see somebody run on this angle, or you hear something, let me know, ping it, shoot it, take it out. On offense, it requires us more to be like, hey, I'm going to open up this area. Well, I'm going to go with you to watch your back. Okay, well, then I'm going to go in here. I'm going to be moving this direction. And you need to all coordinate so that you're hitting and pressuring at the same time, so no one side is weaker than the rest and can be exploited.
And coordination is something that sometimes teams might struggle with, right? Even the best of teams. So to be able to have to execute that flawless as opposed to, okay, everything's set up, we have time, let's just sit here. All right, and looks like they shot one of the drones.
One or
But
two
it-
of the drones ended up going down, but they found the bomb site. So that's ultimately, you want to confirm that. And normally, once you find out where the bomb is, you want to go ahead and hide your drone. You don't want it to die. You mentioned before, information is king in Siege. Information beats out sometimes gameplay. Like straight up raw shooting potential can be beaten by gameplay by just having the right angle and the right timing. So you see one of these cameras, Nexus, trying to hide it away, but now spawning in. We see them down in that basement area.
And then opening up the floor here.
And so this is really interesting because you mentioned roaming just in general, and you mentioned it as a play. Both teams have kind of committed to site pretty heavily. So I want to see if maybe trying something different or even considering doing something different could change the entirety of the game. So is this going to require players and teams to look around and possibly see? Do you know what's going on? Do you know people's play style? You mentioned a lot of these players played together. I look at the players in this game. This could have been a lineup for the likes of New Moon last season.
And it would have been one of the better ones.
Bizarre world, because some of these players were starters, some of them weren't. But now with the changes, they're all able to play, and we get to see them get their individual shine. So at this moment, we are watching Doomsday as he plays his defensive game plan. And the players are talking to each other, but because we're so close in this building, I can hear them not being too loud. But Deimos is in this game. Deimos is an interesting character, and AJ once again getting taken out by Snappy makes this a 4v5
And
for
on
the
being on
defensive
attack.
side.
Them
Yes.
being on attack will down the person.
And we saw what happened this first round. Defense seems to be king still in the league. I'm going to expect more and more teams to pick this up. So we just see the patience here. Now we jump over to the side of the attack, and we're watching as they begin their approach. They're trying to just figure out where different players are. So Deimos, he's an interesting character. You have to scan players, but what you're able to do is you're basically able to initiate a 1v1, which Deimos will find out where that person is on the map, and shortly after a small period of time, Electric has gone down now as well. Those are two of those players that we were keeping a major eye on, and being down to
being down AJ and
Electric is huge for a possible win. He was looking to move in and use this Deimos to get some more information, but now we'll see, using this Jackal, Nexus is going to be able to find a player, identify where they might be, but two more players have fallen. One just lurking in the back, and they have found X-Ray Aspect to take Siege. You asked me on the day what needed to happen for this game to be interesting, and that shooter, I think, proved the skill, the ability of the Wolves, and why I think shooters are going to be the marquee genre of today.
Oh, so now we have
sports.
Yes, sports. And I'm hoping that the Wolves put Exile in, but Lamani could be the best NCAA player in the league. We don't know that yet.
You never know. I have to believe the Wolves' biggest boon in their last game against the bots was that they started winning some sports games. And I think that was a major weakness for this team. And so now in this moment, if this is an opportunity for him to come in and show that, oh no, we have a sports player, we want to get him ready in some of the other categories first before we necessarily debut him. This could be a great point to all of a sudden make other teams and other people in the league have to take and be aware of exactly what is happening.
Now, I do believe that I think sports players, it's interesting. I think sports players are probably some of the most valuable players in the league just because there's so few of them. Good sports players. There's a lot of people who play these sports games, 2K, NCAA, and say they're good, but there's not a lot of genuinely good sports players. I think that's probably one of the least, not impactful, but one of the least prevalent things, right? We got plenty of fires. We got plenty of people like shooters. Sports, on the other hand, I think is down a little bit. But so imagine we're going to get Nexus in. Do you put AJ in with them? Do you double up on the sports? Or are you like, well, if we put Nexus and AJ in, and
unless you know they're playing two sports players, I don't think you do it. I think you have a better lineup, and you got your call, by the way. You wanted Exile to go in for this game, and it does look like he's going to be available. But you want to save players, and sometimes in this moment, I think they realized AJ was available. They might be able to take a few different games off of a few players, but they cannot take off our sports belt holder, one of our best sports players here in general, and AJ Little Blue being defined by that sports category really heavily. Let's see what ends up rolling next. Halo is the next game, but what ends up being important here is Electric went in for the X.
So they don't. Here's the thing: they don't have Electric, they don't have Finn, and they don't have AJ.
So now the question becomes: X-Ray Aspect's been in the league. I know he has experience. Nexus has been in the league. He talked about how his teammates, even referring to some of the members of the Wolves, brought him into the league, taught him these games, made sure he was up to snuff. So I have to believe that they would put probably Nexus X-Ray in here, or Aspect in here, excuse me. Mostly because at the end of the day, I think Havoc is like one of the most stable anchors. There's not going to be a game that Havoc doesn't know how to play on.
Like Billy. It's like Billy to go.
Yeah, I can definite shades of Billy in Havoc. I think for a long time, having worked with him, he's always thinking about the game, and his idea is that ultimately covering everything and being able to play every game, and being able to play every game to a competitive level in the league means the world.
All right, so Halo, we have Snappy and Doomsday going. They're putting tier 1 and tier 2 versus Nexus and Havoc.
To clear up for people at home wondering what happened, Exile went in last game along with Kenny, who had to go in. And that ends up being the reset. They end up having to put somebody in here. They just wanted to make sure that, they want to, in some ways, I think, try to get people in the best position possible. And they want to keep these shooters competitive. Now, you mentioned Snappy when you were talking about Halo a little bit earlier. Where do you think Snappy falls generally in terms of Halo performance?
It's hard because with Snappy, so shooters are probably one of the hardest things to just kind of quantify how good an individual person is. The entire Eclipse, Grizzlies, New Moon teams, they were all good at. Well, they were good at Halo, right? Yeah, we're gonna see a forfeit, and they were all good at Halo, right? Like it's hard to say how good somebody is in Halo when they're playing with Tegeta and Jury and them. But I guess we wanted to see that today, how good he is, anyways.
Again, I think so much of these shooters is going to be down to lineup, and we'll see Midnight Ghost Hunt.
So those 4 have to go in for the Wolves, so they'll have a reset after this regardless. But for the xGODS, I feel like we're going to see X-Ray. I also feel like we see Havoc. This feels like a Havoc type of game.
I think it is, but I also think that like the xGODS are in a different position compared to every other team. And I mean in the sense of, I think they're going to learn a strategy, and the entire team is going to learn the strategy. Everyone's going to be able to kind of play really flexibly to give them the most wins. In that situation, I think they realize like, hey, Nexus, Havoc, we know how good they are.
Yeah.
We both know, like, hey, we're probably not taking this. We're probably not going to win this. That's too much synergy. And so here, I don't know if you have to put Havoc in. Maybe they do. Last time they won Midnight Ghost Hunt before we even had the game fully switched over. The game round started, and then it was like, oh, all 4 hunters are dead. And we're like, oh.
What? That happened?
Yes. One of the xGODS games, when they were the hiders. For those who don't know Midnight Ghost Hunt, it's a game of hide and seek where the sides switch after 4 minutes. While being the hiders, they use the perks of the ghost to kill the hunters within like a minute of the game started. It was
immaculate,
beautiful to watch. It was fast enough that by the time we loaded in, we were unable to figure out exactly what to do.
All right. So do you think the Wolves play this?
You do have control of setup here, so if you feel like maybe they can hide, maybe they can be good ghosts, you go ahead and jump out. The synergy between the X-Rays that are on the Wolves, Gurns, Kevin, and Kenny, does bode well for me, and I have to believe they
have it going in. But
Lamani, they brought
Electric and Sin. Okay.
They got them ready for the game. Lamani, he didn't seem like jittery when I spoke with him briefly. He just seemed like, yeah, I'm ready to play. I'm ready to do what I need to do. But it'll be these lower position on both rosters, the 3 through 6.
Yeah, 3 through 6 on the xGODS and
3 through 6 on the
Wolves too.
So we'll see which setup maybe support these tier 1s and tier 2s a little bit better. We do have some more time on the setup time. I would love to take a look at the tier 2s since we did not get a chance to do it earlier. All right, so we will be getting that here in a second. I'm just wondering where we all stand. This game started off, and I think, again, a lot of people expected a pretty blowout Nexus said 14-8 was his prediction for this.
And Exile said 11 to 12. Well, 12 to 11. Wolves favor.
So both sides think it's supposed to be a fairly close game, or closer than
About
maybe
22,
expected.
23 games.
Yeah, I
played.
think that's about where we've been for the season. As we go later into the season, yeah, people will say, well, the xGODS will be playing their 5th game. They're halfway through their season after today. I think that even with that halfway mark, what we'll see out of them is, and what we're seeing out of teams is they're still warming up. They haven't learned every game yet. You have your strategies, you have how you want to play, but you haven't fully grasped where you want to go. We'll get another wheel spin while we're getting set up here. Looks like we are looking at the side of
and it's just NHL.
The Wolves, and NHL will be going up next. So let's see where we end up playing. And this will be a reset for the Wolves, so they'll get their ideal roster going into NHL. And it does look like the Wolves ended up on the go side.
Or for the Wolves. Is there a side that you favor to play? Because like we see multiple games, right? Like Dead by Daylight, there's sides that teams favor to play. Need for Speed. When we had some of these other older games, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, when we had Friday the 13th, there were sides. Is there one that you prefer to play?
I personally like the Ghost side of things, just in general.
Oh, I do.
It, to me, is far more interesting. And we're playing a little Game Boy game here, making sure that we're all prepared, everything is ready to go. Ooh, I'm trying to Ghost. Ooh, there we go. I don't know. I was thinking of the word ghost for the last 30 seconds, and I just blanked on it. So we're watching X-Ray Kevin. And that's what's going on here. They're trying to bust these ghosts. They have to find it. So we notice that he has the meter here. So that meter specifically is going to track one of the ghosts. If they sit still for too long, you can't just stand in. It looks like they found a player, somebody attacking their generator. And now this player is trying to run and immediately get out, taking so much damage before and on the way out of the room. He's already at 36, but they do manage to get a kill early on, which is going to play to their benefit, trying to drop down this healing. They have to be careful, though, because there will be a ton of damage coming out, and you can still die. He took some there. So what's probably being used here is I believe it's the Poltergeist ability. It allows you to haunt some objects. They'll float in the air, and if the hunters get too close, they'll end up taking a ton of damage. And realizes that there was possibly another teammate in the room, and now it looks like X-Ray Aspect doing his best, trying to find out what's happening. They might have figured out where these players are and are trying to deal damage after damage, jumping between items and now trying to escape. We have to see if maybe, just maybe, one of the other teammates, one of the enemy players, and it looks like they found a ton of the xGODS. The xGODS have to find a way to get away, and it looks like one of them is starting to escape. Aspect is trying to move, but he's been seen. He's trying to dip, dodge, duck,
and it looks
but
like he got destroyed, and you can see the smile on his face.
Destroyed. They bought some time here, but that means there's just one remaining xGOD on the side of the... I cannot. My burn.
The xGODS.
Thank you. Yes, the xGODS. It's really interesting seeing they're moving through. So one of the good things, even after you die, you turn into the Spectre that can kind of help your teammate by finding and giving them information. But you can see these pathways on the floor. This sometimes highlights where different ghosts could be, and trying to just ensure that they're not found. But the lone one remaining is Havoc to your face, and Havoc knows how to play this game. He's another one of those strategy specialists trying to find out what they are able to do. Now, he is making sounds when he does to lower down his ectoplasm meter. He never wants it to get too high. Managed to end up getting some damage. And is
they're
now
right there. They
essentially feels like players trying to figure out exactly what is happening, what's occurring. And I have to wonder if these Wolves players have an idea. They have 1 minute to find him, but it doesn't seem like he is worried too much about the different players, and instead is deciding to continue to play this game very carefully, trying his best to find the space that he can. Man, oh man, this is a textbook game.
They're gonna go back to the gen and then just gonna play defense.
A textbook game of Midnight Ghost Hunt. He's done an amazing job.
Honestly, if you...
And you can
at one
see,
point,
I
if
want
you
to
wanna
say,
be,
is that
like, the
aspect that
tank
we
and
hear?
just, like, get rid of everything, you can. I recommend that you do that for us because we're gonna be really low in HP. Unless we
And
get
that's an
top
interesting strategy. How do you feel about potentially, like,
It
you saw all of
disappears
that
when you spawn.
damage and all that chaos that happened in that room, going back and hiding in there
What you can do
where
is you
things
become a big
already
object,
look
like a
to be
very, very big
disarray.
object that
Sometimes
has no
hiding in
HP.
plain sight might be the safest thing, especially with a minute left in the round. Players are less worried about. Players are less worried about. What's the word I want to say here? Players are less worried about like finding the last ghost with a minute left, and more of getting themselves prepared to survive midnight, which is happening right now. So now this room does not feel great to defend in. It feels like there's a lot of different angles that you have to check around different corners, and if you aren't careful, then you'll end up taking a ton of damage. So once again, we're watching Kevin, and we have to see if he's going to be able to take a win using this shield and this baton to be able
We
to
see,
dish out
we
the
see
damage.
some. Okay,
Man, I can't
yeah,
fit
we
that
see
fucking
him
door
on that
door.
ladder.
Alright. You tell me when we're ready to
We
go.
hear Snappy, the coach there, the tier 1, calling out to his teammates, don't chase anybody. And an immediate hit should be a ton of damage. Now, the big thing is that because they were captured, 3 of them, they will have much lower health. And so now trying to get in and deal damage, they're not going to be able to take these longer fights that we maybe sometimes see.
Okay, I'm gonna go in,
And
guys.
realizing that he got seen, but the call was still, hey, we just need to survive. We don't need to be the players taking a whole lot of fighting. And it looks like he may have trapped his teammate forward, and there's so much damage being dealt here. I don't know if these players are able to get out, and they do manage to survive for another day, but with 2 of the ghosts already down, I have to believe this is in favor of the Wolves. They have to find an angle. They have to find something different, and maybe they need to take out the garbage, a ladder. They're looking for all these different objects. Any big hit matters, but I hear Snappy. I hear him calming to his team to just stay back. You don't need to kill everybody. You need to survive. And now Electric has gone down, and I have to believe that the only one left standing is Havoc to your face. But we can see he doesn't have that much health. He has to pick his engagement incredibly well. He's looking to take a hit. And it looks like they're looking to play the next game, possibly move on. I love to hear the comms from these teams because it means the world here. He jumps in, tries to get some damage in, ends up dying there. And
Looks like the Wolves have tied it up.
Exactly. I think a lot of players and a lot of people maybe wouldn't have expected this game to be this close, but they came out. And
Without
I want to,
Pip-Boy, mind you.
yes, and I want to give a big, big, big shout out. This is, remember, with a dead character due to Tekken.
Yeah.
This
is one mental mistake away from being 4-2.
Yeah,
Wolves'
and
favor.
they've played incredibly well so far, and I have to give them a huge credit. I really want to shout out Snappy there. Snappy was walking around, keeping his players calm and letting them know exactly what should be going on. Hey, we don't need to be doing hero plays. All we have to do is survive the night, stay together, play in this room. We're going to get our damage and to move on from there. And he managed to get his team back in. Now with NHL coming up, I think the question now falls back to Lemani, the
I think it's
rookie.
going to be. I think Exile is going to go in. I think it's going to be a combination of Exile and the X-Rays on the Wolves side.
Which X-Ray?
I don't know which 3.
Gurns
Which 2?
has an interesting, I think, win record. I think he's won most of the NHL games he's come in for. He did not know how to play the game when he came into the league, but is through listening and just being able to talk with players and picking it up himself, has done a great job at finding success. So both teams will be playing the Oilers. Just so you know, when we get into games, the Wolves will be in black and the xGODS will be in white.
And we know who has to go in for the
How do you feel
xGODS.
about that lineup for the xGODS?
I think that's I think that might be their best lineup for NHL. I definitely know you want Nexus and AJ in, and I feel like Aspect has put a decent amount of time into that.
Another one of those veterans that's just putting on something. I just think the mustache on Sin, it says hockey to me.
It does, right? Like, it says, like, I'm a Canadians fan.
Legitimately, I was thinking, straight up, you're from Canada.
Is he from Canada? He looks like a Canadian friend.
You are honorary Canadian.
He reminds me of. It's funny enough. The guy's not Canadian, but he reminds me of Ted Lasso.
Maybe, just maybe. And so I believe it's going to be Gurns, Kevin, and XI. You can see there in the top left.
Next.
And Apex coming up next, meaning they will have access to those tier 1s and 2s. We've seen Snappy and his team show up today So already we got to see maybe some of these games where things are going to change. So I mentioned to you before that in the black we are looking at the Wolves, and they seem to be playing the defense right now. You mentioned such a strong lineup coming out of the side of the XGODS, and it doesn't surprise me.
And it's what's really interesting is that we've seen it's normally a Tampa Bay Lightning, right?
Mm-hmm.
But do you know the specific reason to use the Oilers?
No, why is that?
Is they have the best player in the league.
Singular best player?
Yes. So there's a difference of we're winning by many with the Lightning, or we're winning with we have the best person and we're going to diff you.
That's really interesting because then I would have expected the Wolves to maybe go with like a Lightning, to go with a more well-balanced approach. Unless they feel like they have a player that is just skilled enough to take the win and match either AJ or Nexus. No goal there. It was rolled, no goal. It doesn't end up going in. Looks like there was a collision with the goalie, and the XGODS have control of the puck back.
And there it is. Yep, and there's the go. McDavid, yep.
Nexus fixing his hair, making sure that he looked good. No reaction. This is just another day in the office for them. They're so locked in, so focused up. They're ready to play. But another goal here could be important. It is an ice puck, Rex, where teams lose a point if it goes in.
And gain a point.
And gain a point.
So,
So they
it's a
can immediately
two-point swing,
take
essentially.
advantage. Yes.
So for those who don't know, if you look right below the score, you'll see different color circles that have either minus or a plus in it, or nothing in it. Based on what that number is what points happen when you get scored, right? So the next one's a -1. So the team that scores a -1 gets 1 point, but the opposite team also loses a point. You see a +2 after that, same thing, right? The team that scores it will get 2 points. Now this is a first to 5, or first through 2, or whoever has the most points through 2 periods, which right now would be the XGODS.
So do you think that the XGODS have full control of this game?
I think so. So NHL to me feels like traditional soccer does, in the sense that in traditional soccer you'll see a lot of shots taken, but not necessarily a lot of points. NHL feels the same way, where it's like there's a lot of shots taken, but not necessarily in a competitive match, in a game where both teams are equal. That's how it tends to be. So
well, it doesn't look like the XGODS need a lot of shots to put their second point on the board. They actually have found out that they, better than anybody else, it doesn't matter always the number of shots, but the quality. We've seen so many teams rely on the goalie's stamina.
Well, and that's another thing to really think about with the Lightning. The Lightning have the best goalie. The Lightning is generally the best team, but
and we see another opportunity. I have to believe, I have to see where are we going to go from here. What are we going to be able to do? So the XGODS go on the attack once again. Here in the sky blue was X-ray aspect trying to play, and flipping back to the other side. We see the Wolves try to find this opportunity. They just need to get a play. I want to see more passes. I want to see them just working the puck around just a little bit more, maybe looking for these opportunities. It looks better when you involve your teammates. You mentioned a lot of shots, and that's not going to come from just one player, but the entire team.
So, speaking of sports games in general, right? This is probably, in my opinion, this is the lowest. This is probably the sports game that has the lowest ceiling for players in the league right now. But one thing that one of your players interestingly talked to me about, and I've said it for a little while, is that he was talking about how they've been practicing FIFA a lot, right? Like they've been getting good at FC, and how they just simply incorporated the spacing and other passing mechanics from FC into NHL, and it's worked wonderfully for them. So do you think it's a matter of people not treating it that way? And then another goal. Now, I don't think that was really shot in.
It was
that was just kind of,
I'm pretty sure that he pushed it into his own goal. On that note, I think that, funny enough, like sports games are another game where if you have just, I'll call it sports IQ. That was a really good set of passes. Looked really good. I almost thought that would have gone in.
Is that -2 or -3?
That is a -3 puck. But that is a game win.
Because you keep in score. If